Give it up one more time for the amazing work being done by this organization. My name is Justin Terrell, and I work with Take Action Minnesota. Take Action Minnesota is a statewide people's network focused on racial, economic, and social justice. I run a racial justice campaign there, and we're working to address the worst in the nation racial jobs gap. Any ideas where that gap exists? You can say it. Right here in Minnesota. We are home to the worst racial jobs gap in this country, and myself, along with 733 people who've acted with us in the last year, are working desperately to fix that. I want to share a story with you real quick, a couple stories actually. You probably heard this first one before around babies in the river. You know, a lady sitting by the river, and she notices a baby in the river, and so just like anyone in this room, she jumps up, she runs over there and jumps in the river to save this baby. As soon as she gets out, she looks back and there's another baby in the river, and we're like, what the heck? And so now she's going back and there's 3, 4 babies in the river. She's grabbing people like Chad Schwitters and Ryan Peterson and some of you in this room. We're all jumping in the river trying to save these babies. But someone's got to go upstream and figure out what the heck is happening upstream when that babies are falling in the river. Can I get an amen? All right. So when my family moved to Minnesota, we were one of these babies in the river, right? We were fleeing from the abuse of my father, who was struggling with some mental health issues. I was 5, my sisters were 11 and 12. And my mom, due to nothing on her own, ended up homeless in the streets of Minneapolis with 3 kids. We were bouncing from shelter to shelter, staying with her boyfriends when we could. We would rent only long enough to the point where we could afford it and we'd have to move, sometimes down the street. We were that family carrying the couch down the block on Cedar Avenue over south, going to another apartment. I just want to say that we needed an Urban Homeworks back then and we didn't have one. I also want to say that there is nothing more powerful than a family that is working and fighting to get out of poverty. Thank you. My mom worked 3 jobs, one for each kid we used to joke about. And she was able to do it. She became a homeowner. And it is no accident that I'm leading a racial justice campaign. The same way it's no accident that my mom experienced poverty, that I experienced poverty, that my grandmother experienced poverty, that my great-grandmother experienced poverty. These are not accidents. There are systems and attitudes that operate without the help of anyone to keep things going that way. Poverty, high unemployment, failing schools, mass incarceration are not the results of lazy parents, bad children, or evil white people. Rather, they are the result of systems. Systems designed sometimes with good intent, but regardless of the intent, they have produced the worst in the nation racial jobs gap right here in Minnesota. I hate poverty. My gut is that some of you in this room hate poverty too. My question is, what do you want to do about it? What do we want to do about it? 10 years ago, I graduated from Bethel College. It was college back then. I'm a little old now. Older. I had a degree in social work, and I moved into an Urban Homeworks house over south, and then I went to work fighting poverty. I've done counseling, employment work, financial literacy. I've done a lot of different kinds of work helping people. Let me tell you about my vision. The world I want to live in is one where people are at the center. People orientated, right? It is not good enough for housing and employment to be the goal of families in poverty. I want to see those families led by women like my mother, who know what it takes to break 3 generations of poverty. In control. We need more people running our government. I won't add anything else there. And we need more people like that running our corporations. People who know what it takes to raise a family in crisis. Maybe they will be willing to look at a more equitable way of doing things. So look at Urban Homeworks. Urban Homeworks provides services that help move people out of poverty. Homeless families become homeowners. Volunteers become neighbors. Neighbors become family members. In my case, one of those neighbors became a board member. 90% of the residential contractors used by this organization last year were minority contractors. I don't know of anyone else that's doing that. And I don't do like research on the subject, but seriously, 90% of our residential contractors. That is wealth in our community. Urban Homeworks has created wealth in under-resourced communities and is deepening that work through work like UC Squared. Can I get the guys from UC Squared, can y'all stand up real quick? Round of applause for these brothers. Through UC Squared, contractors who have gone through training will find work through Urban Homeworks and learn how to run their own businesses. People orientated, right? So this is why I'm proud to serve on the board. We're creating wealth and equity where it's needed most, and I will fight to strengthen that work so that one more family can move out of poverty. But you and I know that this is not enough. It's great work, but it's not enough. We need systemic change. And we need the families who've been struggling with poverty for generations to lead the fight for systemic change. No applause for that one, huh? Let me give you an example in closing. Remember the river, right? So this is going back to my Bethel days. I'll close with a biblical tradition story. Moses got his name from Pharaoh's daughter. She named him Moses because she found him in the what? The river. The name Moses means drawn from water. Moses was a river baby. I'd like to think that he and I are cut from the same cloth. The same way Moses went to Pharaoh and demanded he let his people go, my campaign is going to the state capitol and demanding structural policy change. The same way Moses moved his people to come together for a mass exodus, my campaign has marched in the streets demanding justice for our community. And that corporations and government and people play a role in closing our state's racial jobs gap. Urban Homeworks helps families move out of the river. My hope is that those families and you all will in turn, at some point, come upstream with me and help me change these systemic problems. Thank you.